the Philadelphia 76ers. This is the end. This is the end. Now, the headliner out of that game was TJ Warren. I'll get to him in a second here. But I think the most intriguing or interesting thing was Shake Milton and Joel Embiid exchanging words and almost damn near having to be separated there through this game. The story with the Sixers is Ben Simmons to power forward, Shake Milton at point guard. Brent Brown is shuffling things up finally, right? And Shake Milton is a scorer. Is he an undrafted or did he go late second round? Either way, he's on the fringe of the NBA. He's a wiry, skinny guy. We've seen him get hot in a couple games, but by no means is he a distributor or a playmaker. But, Philly wanted to shake things up. He had a bunch of turnovers. McConnell was eating him up. Embiid got frustrated and was talking. And I just think that this is the last we're going to see of this Embiid Simmons thing. I really do. Maybe it's my hopes, but I know a lot of Sixer fans and other NBA fans, and I thought this as well too. I was like, all right, well, let's get rid of Brent Brown. Before you blow up this Ben and Joel thing, let's see what it looks like under a different coach, because it's no secret Brent leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to scheming and a lot of things with the coaching. But I think it goes deeper than that. I think Ben and Joel are not just oil and water on the court. I think internally, I suspect the Sixers are growing tired of Joel Embiid. From an outside perspective, I can already tell you he's immature, he's undisciplined, and he's injury prone. Plus, I think they'd probably get the most in return for him. So I'm making the prediction now. I think the Sixers don't show well in this tournament, and Joel Embiid is on the block. That's what I think is going to happen out of all this. And like I said, we can argue back and forth about him being the better talent, but you just look at his issues. I think internally, maybe it's time for them to move on. And you could make an argument that they just take Ben Simmons and use the Giannis blueprint, right? Just surround him with shooters and give him the ball, because he just seems like maybe he's a less talented player. He seems like a much safer bet moving forward if you're going to give the keys to one of these guys as the franchise. Now, Indiana, TJ Warren, you can add him to a long list of players that the Phoenix Suns have mishandled. But he went for 53 points. Super efficient, man, right? And he was a guy out here in Phoenix where he was a mid-range specialist, came off the bench, and then about 2 summers ago, I remember he came back and all of a sudden he was shooting a 3, and it was like, okay. And he was, sometimes you hear in today's league, everybody's shooting a 3. I was watching Memphis the other night, right? They're green lighting everybody. You got Kyle Anderson pulling up in transition. It's like, oh no, man. Just because that's the way the league is headed doesn't mean you necessarily have the personnel to just be green lighting all these cats to shoot the 3. But Warren, it made sense. He was a mid-range artist, right? The stroke looked pure. And so he just backed out that range to 3. And this is, again, 2 years ago. You fast forward to the Suns selling him off to the Pacers, and now he's like their go-to option. Now, things have changed. They've had some injuries to where that was, but it was an efficient performance. It was very impressive because it wasn't forced and they won the game, right? But I think the Pacers are in a very interesting situation where, Vic, what are they going to get from him? He looks fine, right? Sabonis goes down with the plantar fasciitis. That's a chronic thing that could take a long time. They lost Lamb, right? But yet, with Nate McMillan, give him credit, they continue to overachieve. But is that necessarily a good thing? Because it kind of almost feels like it's giving the organization and the fan base false hope. And it's kind of like, well, look how good we are despite all these injuries. When we're healthy, we should be contenders. But if you ask me, it kind of feels like they should blow it up, right? It kind, to me, from a distance, it feels like they have a lot of good players and no great player. Now, I may feel a little different if Vic never tears his quad off his bone, off his femur. Vic was on his way, but now it just seems like you got a lot of B players, right? Miles Turner, he might even be a C+, right? You talk about guts and will, shit. But, so I just think it's interesting for Indiana. Again, they'll overachieve. Maybe they'll upset somebody in a round, but ultimately, what does that do? Maybe the owner and the money and the fan base are content just being perennial playoff team. But if you want to go for it, it feels like they have enough chips to cash in. Could it be a Joel Embiid move? I mean, I don't know. Like you look, I forgot to say, so if Embiid, let's say Embiid does the guy on the block, right? Wouldn't Miles Turner be a nice swap, right? Because Turner, to me, seems like a much more pure stretch five. Embiid, like, yeah, he can hit a couple threes. You don't really want him out there. Miles Turner, he's almost better out there. And then he does protect the rim. You'd have to make it work. And then I think Warrior fans, it could be some sort of Wiggins and pick trade. I got to be honest with you, Warrior fans, though. I would be apprehensive about getting Embiid. I really would, for the reasons I listed above. Immature, lacks discipline, injury prone. It'd be exciting if the Warriors acquired him, but I'd be nervous, man. I'd be nervous about the situation. So I don't know. Indiana, though, Warren, very impressive performance.
I've been winning so long, it's like alchemy.